Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in, but also we're 87 days away from kickoff, so tell us who your favorite number 87 is. Choices are a bit more limited today, but we have those days every now and again. But tell us that. And guys, let's start with the big game today. It's going to be softball. Of course, Texas will take on Texas Tech tonight at 7 p.m. on ESPN.
Woo! First time national champion for somebody here in softball. I think it's kind of amazing because it really is. Maybe more so, and somebody asked about this on TexasFootball.com, is softball pitcher the ultimate NIL difference maker? And we're about to find out. we're really about to find out if the NIL play for Kennedy is going to win Texas Tech a national championship. Because if it does, it changes softball. Who's willing to go down that path? But because that will be interesting to see. Look, it's going to be an unbelievable pitching matchup. I think the two best pitchers in the college game today. Obviously, winning game one is massive in this. You do not want to go back against the wall in a 3-game series, because then you have to beat one of these pitchers twice in a row after losing game one. That's a tall task.
And yesterday, fellas, we on the live stream, if I can get it going here, one of our providers is having difficulties today, so we're having those same difficulties with them. But we had Kaden on, and if I can get this going, she talked about Texas Tech, and obviously she can preview them a little bit better than I can. So I'm going to play y'all real quick what she had to say.
She was on the live stream. I'm sorry. She was on the live stream with Aaron Hogan and Rod and Jeff last night.
Yes.
Playing them 2 times this year, and going against Nyjah Kennedy, who's a very good pitcher. She's a great kid. She's a competitor, and they have a lot of competitive kids on their team. They use their speed for sure to snag some extra bases. I don't know if y'all seen it, but NCAA kind of posted. SEC has been everywhere of them stealing home, which is kind of like crazy in the sport of softball. So they're just a team that kind of takes every opportunity to get in their opponent's heads and, score runs and steal those extra bases when they have the chance.
So there you go.
I saw that steal of home, and it was tremendous. They did it against UCLA, Blake and Jerry, and they did a great job. The Tech coach came to Texas Tech from Louisiana, Lafayette, I guess, the old Louisiana Lafayette, Raging Cajuns, etc. And he was the former coach of the young lady who pitched for Oklahoma the last 2 weeks, these past 2 years. So they had a kind exchange at the end of the game whenever Texas Tech defeated Oklahoma. Look, Jerry, I don't think there's any doubt that softball pitcher is the most dominant piece of any team sport. I mean, more so than quarterback, more so than a baseball pitcher, because they can pitch. And in softball, you have a dominant pitcher. You can pitch every stinking game.
Yeah.
And all you're really looking for at that point is one run. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it.
No, it's going to be I think it's going to be amazing to see how it all plays out, right? I mean, Mike White obviously has been here many times. Texas has been here. So you would say, well, experience. Texas has experience. Well, Kennedy's been in the World Series as well. It's going to be so interesting to see how it all plays out in this game. I do think I think defense behind these pitchers is going to be huge. Defense behind these, who fields it clean and keeps their pitchers clean, because both these teams can move on the bases.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I think that's going to happen, and we'll see how it goes. But hey, Blake, we've got a lot of stuff to get to today. One of the things that happened, Jerry, for you covering recruiting, Corey Wells, a defensive lineman out of Mississippi, Petal, Mississippi, has set up an official visit to Texas. That brings Texas to what, 14 official visitors for this weekend, I believe. Tell folks a little bit about Corey Wells, if you would.
Yeah, he's a defensive lineman out of Petal, Mississippi. Really good player, good over the ball player, but it's got some movement skills to him. I think he's on his unofficial visit to Texas. He was 6'5", right at 6'5", 290. Long arm kid, 4-star prospect, really high upside. So he's been on campus to Texas before. We broke the news last night that he was scheduled to make an official visit this weekend. Now, I think Ole Miss is the favorite right now for him. And just because Texas is bringing him in doesn't mean we think Texas is going to all out push for him right away. But Texas does like him quite a bit. And if you watch the tape, you can see why. He also has Auburn and Mississippi State on the OV list. Tennessee and FSU, I've been trying to get him to OV. But I think Ole Miss is your favorite. Texas is bringing him in. So he's one of 3 defensive linemen this weekend that'll be making official visits. Dylan Berrymon, another out of Monroe, Ouachita, who plays over the ball as well. So a couple over the ball guys this weekend. Obviously, Berrymon's been on campus a number of times. We are up to 14 official visitors this weekend. And somebody asked in the chat, do we expect any commitments this weekend? And I'm not going to say on a Saturday or Sunday, but out of this weekend, I'll be very surprised if Texas walks away empty-handed.
Very surprised. Yeah, look, Jerry, you mentioned over the ball guys. That's a good one. Other news in recruiting too. Texas lost out on one of their bigger prospects, it wasn't just one of Texas's bigger prospects. He's one of the better prospects in the country, and we didn't know if Texas really had a shot. And that's Justice Fitzpatrick out of St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah, we'd been consistent in saying there were some people, I don't know why they thought that Miami might be the team to beat, which never made sense. It was always Georgia for Fitzpatrick was the team to beat, and as we've said, for Justice Fitzpatrick because of Kirby Smart and Dan Schumann. They recruited Minka Fitzpatrick to Alabama. Then Kirby got the Georgia job. Dan Schumann was very impactful in Minka's development until he went to Georgia, and they're still all very close with the family today. And we've mentioned that on this show, I don't know, 18 times. They had a great unofficial visit in April, set up the OV. They changed it to June 20th, but he went ahead and committed to Georgia. Georgia was considered the favorite, so this wasn't something that was unexpected necessarily. The timing of it, not taking the rest of the OVs, he went ahead and got his weekend out. He got his decision out of the way, and I think that was him and his family's decision, along with Mink. I mean, everybody. I think there's a real trust factor with Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann with Justice Fitzpatrick because Minka lived it through recruiting and then part of his development with Schumann.
At some level, you just have to trust the guys that did it before.
Yeah.
I mean, right. I mean, that's my comment is that you just have to trust the people that have done it. And we'll see what that means. But look, we're having some technical difficulties. I can't be in center stage. Jerry, you're going to be in center stage for most of the day today. So
man,
be prepared for that. We got one more recruiting note to get out there too before we get going. But I want to say first, thank you to our sponsor. That is Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. Adam has been a sponsor of On Texas Football for more than a year and a half now. We appreciate him and his company very, very much. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, from ATV to 18-wheeler, make sure you check out Adam at loweylawfirm.com. That's loweylawfirm.com. They'll give you a free consultation about whether or not they think you might be due compensation. Just give them a shout, loweylawfirm.com. Thank you, Adam, for you and your company's support of On Texas Football.
LL just put Devon Benjamin ? I'm not sure where your question's going with that, but scheduled to be in this week, and we'd had that for weeks. We've had him on our official visit list for weeks here. You guys that are on the show or on TexasFootball.com know. have seen that on the, but I don't know if you have a specific question about Devon Benjamin. Obviously, this is the graphic. It does not have Corey Wells on there, which was added late last night. So there you see.
It does. He's at the very bottom, Jerry.
Oh, he's at the very bottom. He added at the very bottom. Okay, I see that now. So your other D lineman coming in, Lamar Brown out of Southern Lab, and a guy that, look, I mean, Lyle Clark's doing some good work with him. I mean, he's been in contact with Sark weekly since Lyle Clark went down there, and multiple Texas staff members. Am I saying Texas is going to beat out LSU for him? I'm not. But I do think Texas is putting themselves in position to be right there in the fight. The interesting thing with that recruitment is some people it's very similar. It's very similar, except another side of the ball to Jonah Williams. Because a lot of schools are recruiting Lamar Brown early on as an offensive lineman, Texas included. Texas shifted to D-line, obviously, when Lyle Clark was hired, and Lamar Brown really started talking more about playing defensive line. The only school that's been recruiting him as a defensive lineman for over a year is Texas A&M. Even LSU's kind of waffled back and forth. Miami's recruiting him as a defensive lineman, but they're more in the picture later than where A&M was on that. I think he wore number 4 on his official visit pictures. But Lamar Brown, Malachi Lee, offensive lineman, obviously. We talked about this early on. It looked like Michigan was the team to beat. I hear more and more about the SEC being the people to beat for Malachi Lee, and he's taken 3 SEC OVs and 1 Big Ten. If you're Michigan, you probably feel a little nervous about that. If you paid attention to the Brandon Baker recruitment a couple of years ago, it ended up being Ohio State and Georgia and Texas, so there was more SEC teams at the end. So Malachi Lee may be trending SEC a little bit. We'll see. Obviously, people always want to ask about Xavier Crowell. I think Alabama leads going into this visit with Texas. He was at Georgia last weekend. He's got Auburn next weekend, maybe an FSU midweek before June 26th decision. But I expect this right now to come down to Alabama and Texas, with Alabama leading everybody else. And there you see some of the other guys on the official visit list. Travis Stevenson, who is a Georgia Tech commitment, who I think is probably trending more Georgia. He will make a visit this weekend. And the question now is, with Justice Fitzpatrick off the board, does Texas push for anybody now, or do they just let it play out into the season? Because remember, Grayson Littleton didn't have an offer until November of his senior year from Texas, and he was one of the stars of spring practice for the Longhorns.
I was going to say, I want to bring back Grayson Littleton's name in a second, because you got some intel coming for a little bit later. One of the things I want to ask you, if y'all noticed on that list that was up there, 3 of the last names on the list were specialists. Jake Collette, out of the kicker out of Georgia, Mikey Bukowskis, I hope I'm saying that right, out of Prosper, and then Trot O'Neill, the long snapper who we had on the show, who's already committed to Texas. He's out of Plano Prestonwood Christian. Jerry, it would not surprise you or I if Texas landed all 3. O'Neill's already in the boat, but Texas landed all 3 of those guys, correct? I mean, they seem to be the favorite.
Clemson offered Bukowskis last night. So okay. Clemson put out a full scholarship offer to the Prosper punter last night, but is he going to go far from home? We'll see. I think Texas leads for both those guys headed into the weekend. So we'll see how it all turns out. Somebody asked a question in here about Jaraylin McCoy. There's been a couple of questions about that. Jaraylin McCoy visited Florida last weekend. I think there was, I don't remember, somebody DM me said, is he visiting Texas this weekend? I love somebody report that. No, he's visiting Texas June 13th, 15th. It's always been the 13th through 15th. It's never been the 6th. He is visiting Ole Miss this weekend, Texas the 13th, then LSU on the 20th, where he was once committed. Florida had good weekend in recruiting last weekend with Vodney Cleveland and Jaraylin McCoy. This is how it's going to go. These are real battles. On Jaraylin McCoy, I would say this. There's 2 guys at play, I think, for one spot. Bryce Perry Wright and Jaraylin McCoy as kind of that 5-tech D lineman in this class. I think there's 2 guys for one spot at that position. So we'll see which way it goes. Bryce Perry Wright did not commit to Clemson last weekend. He has the family, I think, is distant relatives of Grady Jarrett, who's the D-line coach at Clemson. He is slated to visit Miami this weekend. If you're looking for a list of where all Texas targets are visiting this weekend, not visiting Texas. We have that list on TexasFootball.com. Obviously, we can't put up 40 names here.
Yeah. Or 50. 50 plus. Jerry, you had mentioned, and I know I had mentioned Grayson Littleton there a little bit. You talked about him having a good spring. We've all reported that. You have some news and notes a little bit from first day of spring, of summer workouts even, and other thoughts that you've heard from behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think one thing I've heard very, very, very recently is how high Texas actually is on Murad Watson. And it's funny because he's not, and the reason I bring it up is because he's not the guy on all these lists, the Texas D-line list.
Yeah.
He's not that highly ranked in the portal, even though he's a freshman All-American. People have Jonte Cook ranked ahead of a freshman All-American. I mean, make it make sense, rankings people. Make it make sense. I mean, you can't at this point. I think Texas thinks he is a real difference maker. And it furthers my point that I think Texas is going to be better on the D-line this year than they were last year. And I'm standing by it. I'm out on my branch on this. I think they're going to be better. I just do. I think they have more depth, more higher end depth. And that includes two freshmen who they love in Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma. But I'm sticking with my guns on this one. I think they're going to be better on the defensive interior than they were a year ago. And that's saying something because Alfred Collins had a tremendous year. Vernon had a really good year. Lole stayed healthy. When he stays healthy, he's a really good player. Bill Norton played his role. Alex January was a freshman, right? And there's high expectations for him. My path remains the same on this, Bobby. I'm out there on this one.
You are on a limb because here's what I want to say about this. Okay. You say they're going to be better. If they are better, this team's going to be really, really freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why. Because Texas lost, a second rounder in Alfred Collins, was brought in a third rounder with the Saints, and Barron Sorrell was a fourth rounder of the Packers. You see what I'm saying? I mean, those aren't easy to replace guys. I mean, 3 defensive linemen going pro, and you're telling me they're going to be better. Now, maybe they are because Colin Simmons is a year older and Colton Vossick's expected back, etc. But that's a lot, dude. That's asking a lot. Now, Texas did very, very well in the portal. We know that. And Murad Watson, to your point, Jerry, may be better than a lot of people anticipated. But my point for this, at least as I look at it, is if they're as good as, I would take that in a heartbeat. Not even, they don't have to be better. I mean, because if they're better, think of how many goal line stands that unit had last year. You know, and some of those involved Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole, who weren't draft picks, but had that senior kind of intuition and experience of playing in those situations. So, anyways, if they're better, more power to us, because I think that's the case. Texas is going to be very, very good.
I wanted to mention another guy because we've had some questions, and I just kind of stumbled across this one yesterday. We've had some questions about Jackson Christian. Some people have asked him the Golden Triangle, how did this spring go? We really hadn't heard anything. LL, I'm going to get to your question because abso-freaking-lutely. Blake, pull up Damari Simeon's huddle for a question we're going to answer in a second. But Jackson Christian had a solid spring. And I think early on, what I'm hearing is more athletic Hayden Connor. Well, Hayden Connor was a drafted player.
Yep.
So a more athletic Hayden Connor that's a pretty good early prognosis for him.
Maybe better than he was ranked.
So throwing that out there, you're not going to hear a lot about some of these guys. We didn't hear anything about Nate Kibble until midway through the season, and we started hearing this guy was having a tremendous redshirt year to where if a Cole Hudson or DJ Campbell had gone down, they were going to play him. Like they were going to rip the shirt off and play him. He was looking that good. So I think, the one thing I look at with this is if you give Kyle Flood a couple of years to develop these guys, he's turning out really good players.
Yeah.
And so Jackson Christian had a solid spring because I just wanted to mention that because people in the chat from the Golden Triangle have asked a couple times.
Yep. I will say this. My comment on the defensive line goes for the offensive line. 3 draft picks they're replacing and a 4-year starter in Jake Majors. I mean,
Yeah.
Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams, and Hayden Connor all drafted. So, I mean, look, losing 6 draft picks across the 2 lines of scrimmage is typically very difficult for a team to overcome unless recruiting and portal has played a role. And it certainly has on defense. It hasn't on offense. Kyle Flood's kind of stuck to his guns with who he recruited. But frankly, I mean, Texas has changed the defensive line coach since at least once since Steve Sarkisian took the reins. So, look, I feel pretty strongly that Texas is going to be good on both lines. Will they be better? It is a fair question. I think that's just a fair question.
I got that huddle ready, Jerry, whenever you are.
Yeah, so LL asked, is Damari Simeon, the defensive lineman from St. Aug in Richland, New Jersey, are the recruiting rankings too low on him? I've said this the whole time since the first time I saw this guy. 100% too low on him. If you look at Damari Simeon, he's got natural power. He is an arms extender. He is a disruptor. He is athletic and bendy in his stance. He's natural defensive lineman in his stance. He's reactive to things in his peripheral. He is not just a bull rush guy. He is going to be a guy that can develop pass rush moves and be a disruptor and a pass rusher from the interior. I think this guy is a tremendous player. And there's a reason why Texas went to New Jersey and they're in there on a guy like this who they're battling Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. If all 3 of those guys, Bobby, want a defensive lineman out of New Jersey, he is a really good player. That's one of just the common sense things. Hey, nice snow on the ground there. That's just one of the common sense things. If Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and Simeon visited Penn State last week, he's at Michigan this weekend, Texas the 13th, Ohio State on the 20th. All of those programs want him. If all 3 of those guys want a D lineman out of New Jersey, you look at those hit rates on those guys. Luke Wafel, same way. All of those schools want him. But I think Damari Simeon is a dude for sure. And he came in a lot of things with his recruitment because he hadn't been to a lot of camps. He's not a big social media guy. One of the big questions for college coaches is how big is this guy? I know that he showed up. Now that he showed up at all these places, they're like, well, shoot. I think at Texas he was 6'2 and a half, 289. And he's been listed at like 6'2, 265 or even 6'1, 270. So he's bigger than people think he is. I think this guy's a tremendous football player. Tremendous. We'll see if Texas can win out for him. That's real competition. Oh, that poor kid. That center got roasted. That is real competition for a defensive lineman out of Jersey, but Texas is in the game.
All right. Well, we will have it's hump day with Heels, guys. So we'll have Tony Heels joining us here in just a little bit. So we will definitely have that. Stay tuned for that. But I do want to get to the super chat real quick from Dawson Yarbrough. He said, and thank you, Dawson. He says, Jerry, who's the must-get receiver in this class? I'm still heartbroken from last July 4th.
Well, I think it's Jalen Lott. If you're recruiting him as a wide receiver, because I think he's one of the top prospects in the country, period, whether it's at wide receiver or corner, if you just want to call him an athlete. But look, when you have 2 legacies that are tremendous wide receiver prospects, they kind of both are. So Jalen Lott and Caden Finley, because it's not like these are just legacy recruits. These guys are 2 of the better prospects in the country. And Caden Finley, obviously, he's at A&M this weekend with 3 offensive line targets of Texas, by the way. We'll get into some of that later this week, or you can ask questions on that. But Turntine, Crimpin, and Roseburg are all at A&M this weekend, as is Caden Finley. So 3 offensive line. So Kyle Flood will have one of his eyes over pointed towards College Station this week, and the other one on Malachi Lee in Austin. But Caden Finley and Jalen Lott. I mean, because it's rare that you have 2 legacies in a class who are really, really good players. and they're both happen to be at the same position. If Jalen Lott's leading the play, wide receiver. Somebody asked about Jordan Clay. Not a guy Texas has made a big push on for a while. We'll see if that changes. Too broke to see it. Pay attention. I agree with this. I think Tristan Keys is the guy nationally in this cycle. I just, Texas went and saw him a couple of times. Things just haven't materialized there. Let's see what happens during the season, though, because he's taking visits now. Remember, it was, it's shut down. I'm going to go to LSU. Suddenly, yeah, right. You're taking visits. Been at Miami. You're going to make a visit at, I think, A&M. Well, I think this will probably carry on into the season.
I think the number there for Tristan Keys, we were hearing, Jerry, was $2 to $3 million a year.
Yeah,
behind the scenes, man, it's getting up there right now. It's getting up there.
So somebody asked Josh asked, is the biggest competition for turn time A&M? I've always thought he would stay in state, so I say yes. I could be wrong on that, but I've always thought he'd end up staying close to home. He visited Stanford last week, and he's got Michigan. He's got A&M this week in Michigan the 13th, Texas the 20th. I do think Texas is in a good spot, but we'll see how it finishes.
All right, well, we're going to have Tony Hills on in a second, as I said. But first, Bobby, I'd like you to tell everyone about Omaha Steaks.
Yeah, absolutely. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by an unconditional 100% money-back guarantee. Every steak is perfectly aged to maximize tenderness and hand-cut by master butchers. Grass-fed, grain-finished beef has more marbling for exceptional flavor and is the choice of steakhouses and professional chefs around the world. When it comes to Father's Day, some things never change. A dad wants steak. A recent survey shows 75% of Americans agree there's no better way to spend Father's Day than grilling with the family. From USDA certified tender steaks to burgers and more, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience to your front door, guaranteed to secure your spot as dad's favorite. I've used this with my dad and mom. Actually, she enjoys it as well. I think the last 8 years now. Shop omahasteaks.com and give dad the legendary Heartland quality he deserves. Plus, our listeners get an additional $35 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code ONTexas at checkout for an additional 30% off. I will tell you this much. Love Omaha Steaks, and I think it's a great deal, and it's easy. It's an easy Father's Day gift, especially if you're like me and you live kind of far away from your parents. But anyways, omahasteaks.com, an extra $35 off with promo code ONTexas at checkout. See the site for more details.
And Jerry, if you would let everyone know about Gooder.
I can do that. I need to put my Gooders on.
Look at that.
I have them. I should have brought them. I should have thrown them on when I was talking about Murad Watson. All right, Stylish Sunny starting only $25 a pair. 1 year free warranty. Got to read it. 30-day free returns. Got to read that too. Tony Hills doesn't need any of those, and neither do you with your Gooders on. Lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized. No slip, no bounce. From vibrant colors to sleek styles, they're a pair of Gooders for every personality out there in this world. Designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and much, much more. So that leads you to the question of, when do you wear your Gooders? Well, if you're driving in the Texas heat, that's number one, because you'll get a suntan driving in your car this time of year. On a run, playing pickleball, on a hike, playing tennis, going to the beach, which a lot of people will do this summer. A hump day with Hills, maybe, if you're driving in a car. Whatever you need, because they're so affordable. You don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every occasion. If you need a new pair of sunnies, Gooder is giving On Texas football listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/OnTexas, all caps, and use that code for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. I got to read it, and 1,000% satisfaction. That's my own part of the read. Gooder.com/OnTexas.
I don't know if Tony Hills can pull those glasses off.
Oh, he's got it.
He can pull a lot of things off.
I'm keeping these on for the Tony Hills interview. Bring him on.
He's giving you
Bring
a
on Hills.
stage, Bobby. I'm bringing him in for that. Tony, how's it going this morning?
Tony, where are your Gooders, man?
Listen, I started to run and go get my LL Cool J shades just for that tape. Listen, it is a beautiful, gray, cloudy day outside. Rain is falling. I'm excited about that. Why? It's about perspective, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have to turn on my sprinkler system, which means that I lower my water bill. Keep the rain coming. Free rainfall. What's up on Texas
Yeah, that
football?
water
We
bill
here,
gets
man.
big in Dallas in the summer.
Man, listen, I'm telling you, man, I'm about to pull out my my water board, man, and make it happen. We finna get it going.
Tony,
Dude.
how you doing this morning? Hey, I gotta ask you. I was thinking about this, and Jerry Hamilton over here is making some broad prognoses and predictions. He's saying that Texas is going to have a better defensive line next year than they did this past year. Okay, and I want to say this: I'm really, actually, personally high on the offensive line as well. Both sides of the ball, we were just talking about this, both sides of the ball both lose 3 NFL draft picks.
Yeah.
Are we smoking some of the good stuff when we're saying this right now? Is that what are your thoughts?
Better on the D line, Hills. Better on the D line.
Listen, the ganja green, my brother. The ganja green. Look, I can understand the excitement. Here's why. And not taking anything away from the guys that we've had, but when you're talking about it from an athletic standpoint, right? I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm speaking on the offensive line side. I'll get to the defense in just a second. At the tackle position, we are more athletic than we were last year. We were extremely dominant, right, with the tackles that we had last year. But as it pertains to athleticism, that's where we're killing the game at, which I perceive is going to be a problem for a lot of defenses. Like, you remember the old Denver Broncos zone read offense? Like, a lot of times they looked and they said, well, these guys are undersized. How are they going to compete? You saw it with their athleticism. Here's where you're going to see the biggest difference in the run game. Being able to get to and stick and stay on the second level. Guys, that's where the explosive plays happen. When you can get the linebackers out of the gaps, that opens up an immense amount of holes and options for the running backs. And so that's what I'm looking at when I look at the offensive line. On the defensive front, I understand the excitement because of the guys that we got in. These guys are some high caliber players. When you look at what's my man Hero, I believe his name is, where he's coming from and some of the things that he did and some of the other guys. Justice Terry, we automatically believe that he's going to come in and be a freak. And here's the other thing that we're not talking about too, Bobby and Jerry, as it pertains to getting better. It's not just about the guys we bring in. What about the development of the guys that are coming back that are a year older within the system? That development, these are different players. This is not the same Colin Simmons that we saw last year that even dominated last year, and he was just starting to figure it out. What does it look like now that he understands it completely? Anthony Hill, I mean, it's child's play at this point, right? So what does it look like now that he understands it completely? So from the talent standpoint and the growth and development standpoint of the defensive line of Texas, I can definitely understand where the excitement is coming from.
Hey, Tony, I wanted to ask you something, and we're going to get back to football in a second, but softball's playing. It's different because it's a 3-game series, but they're playing for the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
You got to wait all day to play this game. Y'all have to wait all day for your game. What's it like on national championship day? And obviously softball's a 3-game series, but this first game feels like the national championship because if you lose the first in a 3-game series, good luck to win the next 2. What's that feeling like all day sitting around?
It's long. It's long. You got it can be a little mentally taxing because you have to stay mentally engaged. From the emotional standpoint, you're not there yet, right? That doesn't start to bubble up until you start to get inside the stadium. But just the anticipation. You're going over the plays again. You're playing the game within your mind. You're thinking about your assignment. You're thinking about what are some things that the defense might try to do. From a softball perspective, I don't know. I'd have to holler at my girl, Kat Osterman, on that aspect. But
I guess my second part of my question, Tony, is obviously VY did a great job of keeping everybody loose. But did the locker room, did it feel different leading up to the game when you got to the stadium? Was there a difference in kind of what you remember, everybody in people's emotions?
Yeah, no, not really. And that's a credit. That's a credit to VY because of the fact that we're cracking jokes in the locker room and having a good time, dancing to music, right? And so that's a credit to him. I'm speaking more of outside of the locker room, still having to be at the hotel and not being in the locker room. Once you get to the stadium, listen, it's go time at that point. It's business as usual. And the reality too, guys, is that I know on the outside looking in, it's nail biting, it's gut wrenching, it's all of these particular things. But for the athletes that are actually playing that game, it's just a game, right? The celebration doesn't start until after you the realization doesn't set in that you're a champion until after you win. When you're in the game, it's just a game, man. And so I think that the faster that whichever team, obviously we're cheering for our team, right? But the faster that Texas can get in and get settled into this thing and just play the game that they know how to play, the better success they're going to have. Usually what happens is you start seeing people, when they talk about people getting a little tight, it's because they start thinking about, oh, what happened? Oh, I got to push. I got to do something beyond what I usually do, right? Because I got to make the play. As opposed to just, listen, we trusted the system and the system got us here. Let's carry the system home. Let's not try to be superheroes here.
Last thing on that, because I know Bobby's wants to get back to football stuff, but that's such a great point, Tony, because Texas softball, Reggie Bush to this day made the worst unforced error I've ever seen in a college football game.
Right?
At the worst time. That was the worst unforced error I've seen.
Yeah. Listen,
college football game.
I'll tell you that Reggie Bush, yes, but also Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll. Because and honestly, look, this is why I say Pete Carroll. I don't care what the situation is. You never take your best player off the field. Even if you shift in motion Reggie Bush out to the slot, guess what that does for our defense? It pulls somebody out.
Yeah.
The guys, we literally stop them on inches. I'm not so sure that happens if we take somebody out of the box, right? And so that was it again, going into, I gotta have the perfect call type of thing. And now we're getting outside of ourselves. That's an exact point of what I'm talking about right there.
If they wouldn't have had that, they would have had a fullback not running up the middle, and it could have been a tackle for loss. I gotta say that, Todd. Hey, no, that whole description you had actually had me thinking of a question I hadn't thought of in a long time. So I used to, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I worked for the football team, and I was a video guy, Tony. And we had like 3 night games my entire time, right? Because we weren't very good. The team wasn't very good at that point in time. We had one really good year, but other than that, so we didn't get a lot of night games, and this was before prime time and all that stuff. So I got to ask you this. I spent a lot of time at those hotels on Friday afternoon doing nothing while all the players were doing all their stuff. On a Saturday game for you, and you got a 7:00 game, and you don't have any meetings, I'm trying to think of what people do. Are you sitting back, propped up on the bed with a pillow behind your back, watching TV and watching other games? Are you anxiously biting your fingernails? Are you walking around? Are you sitting in the chair that they provide you that's way too small for guys like you? What are you doing in a pregame, say 1:00, with no meetings, after lunch, just trying to chill out before you get going in the game on a Saturday night game? What are you doing? I want to get a visual.
I am Maximus Adenemus Arrhenius, father of a murdered child, father of a husband of a murdered wife, and I shall have my vengeance in this life or the next. I've had Gladiator on, Bobby. I had Gladiator on, Bobby. I'm not thinking about football anymore. I've done my research. I know who I'm playing against. Now we finna get into the mode. I'm putting on Russell Crowe, and we're hearing swords and shields and death. This is exactly what I'm doing on a 7 p.m. game. I'm watching Gladiator. Listen, profusely every single time. Night game, I get my little snack about 3:00, or we was talking about noon. So about noon, 1:00, kind of stretch out a little bit, roll out, put the pillow behind my head. 1:30, 1:45, go and search, hit play. Let's go, Gladiator. I need that Russell Crowe. That's how I got down, bro. That's how I got down.
Something because
that's my movie. If you listen, because you got to think about the mentality. Like, we're in an arena.
Yeah.
We're in the trenches. This is combat, man. So oh my God, I'm getting juiced right now. I need to calm down. Like that's what it was, Bobby. Like, man, let me tell you, man. And everybody asked me, like, hey man, do you miss it? there are certain aspects of the game that I miss, right? Obviously, we start with the locker room because that in itself, man, that place is, blood, sweat, and tears, laughs, jokes, the whole nine. Ups and downs, ebbs and flows, that aspect of being able to be in there with your teammate, the trenches, being able to go in with your guys and fight. But to be able to put your hands on somebody and see their will actually leave their body, there's not a better feeling in the world for true alignment, whether offense or defense. That is the part that I miss. And so movies like that put me back into those spaces. Now I use that in different elements of life now, like within business and motivational talks and things like that. But man, that moment, being in that space to be able to hit that button, watch that movie, and then get out there and be able to do something to affect the game in a positive way, it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. I hope OTF can feel me on that, man. I don't know if y'all have ever had that feeling to where maybe for a corporate guy, it's like, nobody expected you to go in and nail that meeting, and then all of a sudden you stand up and you solve the problem in the boardroom that nobody else had the answer to. That's close, right? That's close. But man, God, I love this game. I love this game. Jesus.
I love you being able to quote Gladiator.
Yes.
To be honest. All right. One more question that I had, and actually it pertains to something that Blake, Jerry, and I were talking about earlier as well.
Yeah.
And we mentioned the 3 defensive linemen that went on to the NFL, Baron Sorrell, Vernon Broughton, and obviously Alfred Collins. But they also lost Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of experience. Texas had a lot of really key 4th down stops last year. I think everybody would agree with that, right? I mean, whether it's against A&M, Clemson, et cetera, a lot of them. Some of those were by the Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole of the world. They weren't by the guys that you're really worried about Texas replacing.
Yeah.
Is that know-how on their part, like experience, like true experience, or can that be easily, I don't want to say easily, but readily replaced? You know what I'm getting at? I mean, what's the match?
I understand your question. And first off, what up, Blake? I ain't gonna leave you out of this, man. I see you over there, man, doing your thing.
He's muted as usual.
Yeah. He didn't expect me to hit him with that. Look, I scared him. So when you talk about that type of play, Bobby, that play is predicated on experience, right? Those guys have played in big time college football before. So now that they get into a moment like that, the moment is not too big for them. That is one of the things that I'm excited about when we talk about the transfer portal, because when you're able to bring in guys that have come from other programs, big time programs, they've played big time ball. So the moment is not too big for them. So now we understand look at how the ecosystem works. You have guys that have experience that come from other schools. We bring them in at Texas. Now you have the other half of that, great coaching and development, so that these guys can take their experience, be coached and be developed by some of the best, those that have put the people before them in the league, right? Be coached and experienced about those type of situations. Now it's them being able to identify certain things that are happening with the game and then execute. And I believe that we have the guys to be able to do that. So I think that leans more on, I know that leans more on experience and repetition. The more that I've seen something, the more that I'm able to identify it. And then for defense, I have to be able to see it and identify it quickly. That way I can react to it, read and react to it, and be the hammer and not the nail in those type of situations. So I see us being very dominant in that case. And the guys that we brought in, the explosiveness within the center of the defensive line is something that I'm looking for. We've always had big guys. We had the Broughtons, right, and the Alfred Collins, and they can get to the quarterback a little bit, but they were really good at holding point and not giving ground so that linebackers could make the plays. But when you have guys that can penetrate gaps, that disrupts everything on the offensive line. So if the defensive line is holding point and also penetrating gaps, our linebackers are cleaning up everything. They're too athletic. I want you to think about Tampa Bay when they had Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp, how they operated together. And then Derek Brooks on the back end was cleaning up everything. That's kind of the flow that it looks like to me if we're looking at how Texas is structured, right? I'm not saying that they're these guys, but I'm saying how they're structured this year. It looks like they're looking to create more chaos up front, similar to what Georgia did to us at Texas. That would be the best example to talk about what I think Texas is wanting to do defensively.
Fair enough.
Tony, we got a super chat for you from Texas
Super
fans.
chat.
Super
Let's
chat.
get
I'm going to cover you and I up for a second because we're having technical difficulties. So sorry about that. But Tex fan says, Tony, your point on the athleticism of the tackles is key. He says that Gooseby played better than Williams, and Baker is a tremendous athlete. Getting bigger on the interior offensive line matters, like Clemson last year. Can you expand on that?
Absolutely. That I told you guys before, like Texas, we like to run inside zone, right? The thing that gets inside zone going is not the tackles. The tackles are responsible for stretching the front side, right? And getting a lane, and on the backside being able to have cutoffs to have cutback lanes. But the movement starts with the inside three. So that's the guys, that's, obviously that's DJ, that's come on. Yeah, I know Hudson, the guy that NATO. So that's NATO, that's Hudson, that's DJ. Those three being able to take big guys, you have to move big, massive people off the spot. And we've gotten bigger in the sense of being able to do that. We talked about this last time, man. Like the guards that the left guard that we had last year, he was really good at pass protection. But when it came to offense, when it came to run movement, we didn't really get a lot of run movement, right? With Jake Majors, as great as he was as it pertains to his cerebral effect, being able to get movement off the ball wasn't really his thing, right? I believe that we have that this year, and so we're going to see what you're going to see is a more dominant run team. And then this is the thing too, guys. Like we can't forget, we were playing with third and fourth string backs and doing what we did. What does it look like when we have our guys that we've had penciled in and being the starter going into the season? Knock on wood that they make it through, right? What does that look like? So just getting that back, talent at the running back position also is going to affect the running game as well.
All right, Tony. Thank you. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'll say times have changed. I think guys just catch up on Love Island nowadays on game days or something. I think it's a little different. It's not a lot of
man. Love Island is crazy. Can we at least get Gilligan? Can we at least get Gilligan? That's crazy. Listen, if I catch any lineman in Texas watching Love Island before the game, we're gonna have a problem, bro. Gladiator, or at least Equalizer. Give me something where somebody's getting their brains blown out. Like, come on, it's a violent sport. We got to have a violent mentality. Just makes sense.
Loyal servant of the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, Tony Hills. Thank you for joining us on Hump Day with Hills. Hook 'em, Tony. Be good, buddy. Have a good weekend.
Baby. Go Texas.
Enjoy that rain up in Dallas while you got it.
Oh, man, listen, free lawn care, man. Grass is looking like a putting green outside. Shout out to the man upstairs.
Oh, I'm on my way.
Yes, sir.
Have a good one, Tony.
Later.
Never a dull moment with Tony Hills.
If you don't get fired up, Jack Lala, if you don't get fired up when Tony talks, you're either deaf or a eunuch. They had those back in Roman times, I believe.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get to y'all's questions here in just a moment. But
hey, Splendid Daddy, thanks for joining in on the at 6 a.m. on the West Coast. That's an early wake up for this show.
Yeah, that is a very early one. But first, Bobby, can you tell everyone about Pesty?
Yeah, absolutely tired of dealing with bugs, ants, insects of any kind around the house. Nobody likes it, but using a professional service can often be more expensive than you want. That's why there's Pesty, an affordable, pet-friendly self-service solution. Other pest control companies charge more than $800 a year, but with Pesty, you can get started at just $35 a treatment with a customized plan based on your location, the bugs, and climate. Pesty is very easy to use. Everything you need comes in one simple package. My wife and I used it. The kit includes a sprayer, mixing bag, gloves, and with instructions you can complete in a short period of time. Pesty gets rid of over 100 types of bugs, from spiders and ants to roaches and scorpions. Pesty is kid and pet friendly. The pesticides they ship are fully registered. They've been used in hospitals and schools all over the country. Pesty also offers a 100% bug-free guarantee or your money back. Nobody likes being bugged, especially by bugs. And when they do show up, you want them gone fast. With Pesty's do-it-yourself pest control, You can protect your home easily and at a quarter of the cost. Protect your home from bugs with Pesty. Go to pesty.com/OTF for an extra 10% off your order. That's pesty.com/OTF for an extra 10% off. PESTIE.com/OTF.
Is Jenny Burton really saying Pesty doesn't work on husbands in the chat? Bobby.
Dude, after I wore that shirt for her yesterday and everything. This is what happens.
Well, I'm also going to tell you all about Huel, because if you're constantly on the move or tired of skipping meals, then Huel is for you. Their Black Edition Ready to Drink is a total game changer. It's a complete meal in one bottle. You're going to get 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, high fiber, low sugar. You're going to feel full, focused, and ready for your day. There's no prep, no cleanup. Just grab it and go. Now, Huel's already sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. New customers get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use promo code ONTexas. And I personally use Huel Black Edition. I like it because I'm always on the go. I can just grab it out of the fridge, give it a good shake, and I'm all set. It helps me save time and a little money as well. So start saving your own time and money without compromising your nutrition today with this exclusive offer for new customers of 15% off plus a free gift. And I told y'all before, it's a really nice gift when you use promo code ONTexas at Huel.com. Again, 15% off, free gift, Huel.com, Huel, Huel.com, promo code ONTexas. Please see the description for the terms and conditions. Skip the stress, not the nutrition. Try Huel today for complete nutrition bottled.
I got to tell you, we don't have the read today, but I am thinking, chat, what should I do? I'm thinking about next weekend recruiting visits to Texas. I'm thinking about taking Vaughn Lane to Austin and trying to do this show live Friday on Vaughn Lane. I mean, what are we thinking here? Now,
I don't know if they allow the noise that would be. I don't know if they would allow the noise
that accompanies Jerry.
That Jerry Hamilton would put up there. We can't have a Manscaped read while you're on there. That's for sure. That would drive some people away, man.
I'm thinking about taking Vaughn Lane to Austin next Friday, though.
Could be good. Could be good.
Yeah.
We got another super chat, fellas. This one from Splendid Daddy. And thank you for the super chat. It says, placing some bets this morning. Texas for the Natty, Arch for Heisman. Both of those are the favorites, by the way. Let's go hook 'em. And, guys, I was looking this morning, actually, and I sent y'all a note on this. The odds have changed a little bit. Originally, it was Ohio State at that number one spot in the betting odds. But now it's a little more it's very even. Ohio State and Texas both at plus 500, followed by Georgia plus 6. Penn State, Oregon round out your top 5 with the best odds there. But Texas, 1A and 1B with Ohio State.
By the way, this is why you don't take the 4-2-2. Right
let me ask you this, Jerry, in all seriousness. Which ones do you think are just a fool's bet to bet for a national champion in this group?
Georgia.
Okay, so you think Georgia would be a fool? That's hard. That's a hard saying that Georgia would be a fool's bet.
I just think I think they lost a lot. And I know that we have some Georgia fans. They'll probably call me nuts in here. They have the hardest schedule too they've had. They're not they have a really tough schedule. If they stumble early, their schedule's not real favorable for them. So that one's interesting. Look, LSU, they're not that high, but if they don't win that Clemson game, man, their back's against the wall the rest of the season. Like, that's the tough thing. Like, so the two favorites play game one. The loser of that game's back's up against the wall, still have as much margin for error the rest of the way. Georgia's schedule has Texas, Alabama, Tennessee. They play 3 up there. That It's because you have to be in the 12-team playoff to have a shot at the title, right? Common sense. But so if you lose early, your back's against the wall the rest of the year. Georgia's got a tough schedule and are doing it with the most significant losses they've had on a team in a while, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball.
Look, the teams that I don't think have a chance of winning a national championship, even though they're ranked highly, I don't think Tennessee has a chance in what.
No.
That's one.
Michigan.
I don't think Michigan has a chance in what. I don't think Miami with Carson Beck has a chance.
No.
I don't think South Carolina, even with Lenore Sellers, has the surrounding cast to have a chance. I don't think Oklahoma, with the offensive line, has a chance. Oh, Jerry as a guest driver on Vaughn Lane. That is not a bus I would be on.
Insurance rate just
bus I would be on.
You know what? Texting and driving on a Vaughn Lane going 80.
Yeah, that is not a bus I would want to be on, and I wouldn't suggest it for anyone else if Jerry's the driver. Jerry needs to be the passenger on the bus. Look, those are the teams that I just, and I don't know the Ole Miss quarterback well enough to put. But really, I see no way. There's no path, in my opinion, for Tennessee, Michigan, Miami, South Carolina, and OU to win a national championship. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see that at all.
I mean, it's interesting to look at. So Oregon's really high, right? They're very high on Dante Moore, the redshirt quarterback. But defensively, have they made the strides they're going to need to make? Because the reality for them is, I mean, they gave up 32 at home to Ohio State and won the game last year. Then they went and got dusted in the playoff and gave up 31 the first, 18 minutes of the game or something like that, first 21 minutes of the game. Defensively, like a lot of this, we look at, okay, well, the crazy thing about all these odds too, and I've said this all spring and summer, Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia lost the most on the offensive line of all these teams in contention. Oh, and by the way, they have a new starting quarterback as well on all these teams. So that's 4 or 5 offensive line starters, all 3 teams, and they have a first-year starting quarterback. In Ohio State's case, a first-time starting quarterback. That tells you what people really think of those 3 rosters. And I might be underselling Georgia. I don't know. I had somebody close to that program tell me I think they could lose 4 games this year, and I'm sticking by it until I'm proven wrong, or that person is.
Now, they may clip this part and send it to the team.
Good.
Jerry Hamilton may have just provided bulletin board material.
See, that's the thing. If I'm providing bulletin board material, Georgia's already beat. They're having to resort to me, they're in trouble.
I don't know. Kirby has a way. Kirby was pretty spicy after that victory in Austin this year. He felt disrespected. Clearly, he had gotten that point across to his team, and they played like they had their hair on fire that night in Austin. That's for sure. Getting after Quinn Ewers, at least.
Yeah,
that was impressive.
Let's get to some more questions here this morning. And let's see here. We have quite a few. I'm trying to find the one I was just looking for. Dave actually says, how many freshman All-Americans are on the Texas roster not named Rod Watson?
That's a great
question. I think
question,
what he's asking is, who could you see being a freshman All-American?
Or on the roster now, Colin Simmons,
Anthony Hill, Manny Muhammad.
Was Cedric Baxter a freshman All-American?
Don't think so, because he probably didn't have enough yardage, right? Because Jonathan Brooks took over as the starter. But Manny Muhammad would have been, Jerry. Kelvin Banks, but he's gone. Cole Hudson could have been, frankly, because he started all 13 games, Jerry.
Yeah.
And that's rare for a true freshman. Ryan
Cedric Baxter got second team on various lists, second team. So he was second team guy. That's a great question, Dave.
Anthony Hill.
Yeah.
And Colin Simmons, definitely. I think Manny Muhammad got some notes. And I think, obviously Murad Watson, maybe Cole Hudson.
All right, and then roll left here says, what does it look like now with Anthony Hill working on coverage?
You know, that's a fair question. I mean, we don't have the answer really for you, unfortunately, until you get out there and watch them. But I would say this: Anthony Hill is such a disruptor. He is improving. The things that Anthony Hill needs to improve on are in the margins. Does that make sense? Like, he doesn't need to improve 100% on pass coverage. He doesn't need to improve 100% on run stop. He doesn't need to improve 100% as a pass rusher. You know, the things that he needs to improve on are in the margins. He needs to go from an 80% pass defender to an 85 to 90%. He needs to go from a 85% run stopper to a 90. He needs to go from 95 to 99 as a pass rusher. I mean, they're in the margins. And that's part of what you get as a guy gets older. You get them working on the margins. And we'll see what that means. I don't think, you know, he got in some passing lanes, Jerry, but I just don't think that's his natural strength. His natural strength, I think, is going forward and being a disruptor.
Yeah. Zane Petty has a take I 100% agree with. Brad Spence is going to get 5+ sacks this year. I'm on board with that, Zane. He got 4.5 at Arkansas, and he's coming in playing on a much more talented defense with better players around him. I agree with that. I think
Texas can stop Jerry. Been talking about it, been thinking about this because this offseason. If Texas can stop the run like we think they're going to be able to, given all the roster transfers that they brought in that have been pretty successful against run, if they can do that, that just opens up this defense in so many ways. They just have, I mean, Sark was talking about it last week in Destin. You know, he's like, look, I mean, we just got so many different ways to get to the quarterback.
Yes.
I mean, and he mentioned Brad Spence, by the way, as one of those guys. And so I just feel like, I feel strongly that, you know, if they can stop the run, it just opens up everything for the defense. It really, really does. It makes the secondary much better. They don't have to come up, play as tight. You know, that we'll see how it goes, but they got to stop the run first.
Yes, that's a good one, Dave, actually. Hey, Jeff Carey has an interesting follow-up on the D-line or pass rush. Do you think the pass defense stats will be better, same, or worse with the pass rush? I actually think, obviously, the flip side is if Texas plays a little more aggressive, a little more man at times, they're going to give up because you're going to trying to get to the quarterback with all your pass rush. You are susceptible to giving up the big play a couple more times. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So that's always the kind of, there's the bend don't break defense where you kind of cloud everything up. And then there's the aggressive defense if you have guys who can really get after the quarterback. Look, Nick Saban's best teams, Bobby, gave up some big plays in the pass game because they were playing man and they were going to be so hyper aggressive and they had so many guys to get to the quarterback. Well, you saw what happened, even though it was a very dirty hit in the Texas-Alabama game, Quinn's first big game at Texas, is Texas was making plays against that man. But eventually Will Anderson or Dallas Turner were going to get home. And it was a dirty play, but they did get home.
And Jeff, thank you for turning that into a super chat as Jerry was answering it there. We appreciate that. Some people have asked about Vosick. Have you heard anything about him being healed up?
Hey, last time it was so healed up. He wasn't in a sling at the end of spring. So he was obviously on the right track. Because I think when CJ and I saw him early, was it January or February? It was late January. He was in a sling. He wasn't in the spring, obviously. So we'll try to get 100% update on that, but he should be good to go for August. We haven't heard anything of a setback.
Jerry, I want to use the mention of Colton Vosick as a segue, and it's going to be a backwards here. But we are 87 days away.
Yep.
From the start of college football season with the Longhorns. The favorite number 87 for me, or not favorite isn't the right word, but the best one to have worn the number, Lawrence Sampleton, a former tight end out of Seguin High School. Seguin High School actually had, back in the day, Russell Erxleben played at Seguin, Kevin Monk, David Brothers. They had a bunch of guys go. Those two guys played at A&M, and the other two played at Texas. They had a bunch of guys, but Lawrence Sampleton was a legit big-time tight end at the University of Texas, played in the NFL as well, number 87. Another number 87, Kyle Shanahan, the current San Francisco 49ers. He wore number 87. And then I want to give a shout-out to Colton Vosick's dad, Brian Vosick, who wore number 87 for the Longhorns back in his day as well.
Hey, W.A. Jones has a really good question.
Yep, I was
Follows
gonna
up.
ask
Follows
that one
up.
next. He says elite teams usually have a great punter and kicker. Do y'all think that Texas has addressed this?
Rod and I were talking about this on one of the Friday shows. Boom Easter, being an experienced punter, I think even helps the defense more. Because the one thing, and look, I saw Michael Kern at St. Thomas Aquinas a couple of weeks ago when I was there to see Justice Fitzpatrick and some of their younger kids. I think Michael Kern will go on to have a good career, right? He was a true freshman punter that didn't have spring last year. So he wasn't really a field flipper type of guy. He couldn't help the Texas defense necessarily maximize from a punting perspective, which great punters can do. I think Boom Easter is going to help the Texas defense this year, whether that's pinning deep, whether that's flipping some fields, whether that's because last year, if the Texas defense, as good as they were, and they were very good, especially when you consider where Texas turnovers occurred a lot of times, and that the punter couldn't flip the field and wasn't great necessarily experienced guy downing the football inside the 10. I don't even call it the 20 more, inside the 10. I think Texas has addressed that from a punting standpoint.
I would just say this. So it sounds like you may not, the person that asked the question may not have known what Texas has done to improve their kicking and punting game in this offseason. So WA, Jerry's talking specifically about a transfer punter from Utah. He's originally from Australia by way of Utah, but he averaged 45 yards a punt last year. And so that's 3 or 4 full yards longer than what Michael Kern averaged. And then also Texas brought in a kicker named Mason Shipley from Texas State a year. He's been at Texas State. He's got a career long of 60. So Bert Auburn has actually, the longtime kicker for Texas, has actually transferred to Miami. So this is Bomeester. Is that Bomeester the last couple of years?
Yes, that is correct.
44.7, 45.5. So he's up his first year in the States, 39.2. He's certainly gotten better and better. And then
he had a 40.
Jerry and I saw him in person, by the way, at the Texas Pro Day. He was over there. He's got a handlebar mustache of sorts. Yeah. But he's a big, stout-looking dude compared to Michael Kern. Like you can see.
The thing with Boom Easter is, and obviously played at Utah in higher altitude, but he had a 40.4 net last year with 23 punts down inside the 20. So that's a pretty good net considering he had 23 inside the 20 last year. I think he's really going to help maximize the Texas defense through the punting game. I think he can angle punt. I think he's situational punt. He's just got a lot of experience, and he can let it rip. He can really rip it.
I personally wish Texas would have done this a year ago at punter. Can you imagine a great punter with the defense last year?
Yeah.
The defense was so good. If they would have had there's only one Michael Dixon, so you can't. But if they would have had a more accomplished punter last year, it would have really put some teams behind the 8 ball.
Yep. All right, Bobby. Before we get to our last few questions, we're going to talk some baseball and some recruiting. Can you tell everyone about Adam Lowy?
Yeah, absolutely. Adam and his team over at the Lowy Law Firm have been helping injured Texans for more than 20 years now. Give Adam and his team a shout. LowyLawFirm.com if you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, from 18-wheeler to ATV, and you think you might be due compensation, Adam and his team will give you a free, no strings attached consultation to see if you might be due compensation. Again, that's LowyLawFirm.com. Thank you, Adam, for sponsoring On Texas Football. Not only does Adam sponsor this, he also sponsors State of the Program, which will be up here around noon or 1 o'clock. Jerry, CJ, and I are going to talk a little Longhorn football and what's going on big picture-wise from a recruiting perspective as well. That's LowyLawFirm.com. Thanks, Adam, for your sponsorship.
Okay, guys, before we get to the recruiting questions, we've had a lot of people asking about baseball and the portal and all that good stuff. And so, as I told y'all a couple of days ago, the portal opened on June 1st. It runs through July 2nd. I expected Texas to lose about 4 players, and they have done just that. And also teased that a fan favorite may leave as well, and that was announced when Ace Whitehead actually let everyone know that he was going to be transferring. Of course, he's the biggest. The other ones include outfielder Matt Scott, Donovan Jordan, who's another outfielder, and Chase Covert, who is a pitcher. So it is worth noting those 3 were not on the roster, or the postseason roster, I guess is what I should say there. But we've had people asking about when they're going to start hosting players, and that actually starts today. Unfortunately, I've been asked not to share the name with anyone yet, but they will start hosting today, and that'll go on. I've been told that Texas is going to be extremely aggressive in the portal, not just at certain positions like shortstop and pitcher, but all over the field. So they are looking for talent upgrades. It doesn't matter what position it is. So there you go.
Got to be aggressive in the portal these days and age if you want to maximize your team. And it doesn't look like it matters in any sport.
Yep.
In college. I mean, it really doesn't.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's get to some recruiting questions here. And let's see. Horn 7 wants to know, Jerry, are there going to be any more late offerings coming in at receiver?
That is one position that, unless everything falls perfectly, I think could carry into the season. So now maybe Texas dominoes on 3 guys coming up here. But I still, even if that happens, I could see wide receiver recruiting going into the season a little bit. So I'm not ruling out a late offer.
And then
couldn't it be, Jerry, just there's guys like Aaron Gregory out of Douglasville, Georgia, that's committed to A&M. Jabari Mack committed to LSU out of Destrehan. It feels like Sark may pull his, we're going to stay on some guys for a little while.
Yes.
And see where they really end up 3 months from now. 4 months.
Totally agree.
All right.
Same on Aaron Gregory. I could see that going into the season.
That's what I was thinking, because some positions you just get a feel that that's the way things are headed. And I'm not saying that Jalen Lott said he's already going to make his decision preseason, right? Sounds
July 4th.
Yeah. So,
Cade Finley's July 4th too, I believe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we'll switch from wide receivers to the running back room. Austin T says, what is the running back class going to look like, assuming we don't get Crowell?
I'm going to go Normdale and Hoosiers. I don't know.
KJ Edwards, we think.
Yeah.
Out of Carthage.
Yeah.
He's leaning to Texas at this point. But beyond that, who else do they have? They
have 2 guys for OVs right now, Crowell and KJ Edwards. And look, I don't think that means Chad Scott's not doing a good job. He offered Carson Baker. Texas is working on Derek Cooper. It'll have to be a midweek visit though. James Johnson, defensive lineman's in the same boat. That may be a midweek. We'll see. So there's a couple of those guys that you have to bring in midweek. But again, that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But we think Texas leads for KJ Edwards. Texas gets the last visit on June 20th, but they want it to be a 2-back class. Who will that second back be if Xavier Crowell ends up at Bama? We can't answer that right now.
Mm-mm.
And King Me wants to know if you can predict the class size by August 30th.
Oh gosh, I hadn't even thought about that.
They're at 8 right now, Jerry. If they get 2 more specialists, which we kind of believe they probably will, that puts them at 10. You've put a high out there that somebody that isn't a specialist.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna say 22 or 23.
wow. You think they're going to forward that much compared to last year? Is that a byproduct of just being a hotter team?
More official visitors. They have 41 official visits last year. They're going to have 52, 53 this cycle. They'd have to turn a lot of kids away not to get up to 21, 22, 23.
Okay.
But
Fair.
to your point, we'll see on that. But if you just think about, if you get a running back, you already have a quarterback. If you get a couple of wides, you're going to have 5 offensive linemen in this class somehow, some way, however the dominoes fall. 3D linemen, couple edges, couple of linebackers. Do you want 3 linebackers? Do you get 3? Couple. You already have multiple DBs committed. You'll probably add at least one more to that. Jermaine Bishop's an athlete. It's hard to see it not getting over 20 right now. But we'll see. But that doesn't mean all those guys will remain in the class at the end of the day either. Texas will play senior year recruiting too.
We can do a couple more here. Clayton wants to know, what weekend this month is the biggest in your opinion, Jerry?
Wow. It's a tough call between the 13th and the 20th. I mean, on paper, it's probably the 13th. That's where you have the most official visitors and maybe the most questions that have to be answered is the 13th. But if you look at that, who's coming in on the 13th, I mean, there's some guys that, there's some real questions in that one, in that weekend. Not that there's not in the 20th, but the 13th, I mean, Xavier Griffin, Jake Krull, Bryce Perry Wright, Samari Matthews at corner, Jabari Mack, who's committed to LSU, Braden Rouse, the linebacker. Jarayla McCoy, Vodney Cleveland both had really good visits to Florida. Hezzy Kent, Damari Simeon, we talked about him earlier. Dre Quinn is a big-time recruitment nationally out of Buford, Georgia. And I'm not mentioning the OL guys, but those are just some of the out-of-state guys who are going to be interesting to follow. On the 20th, so the 13th on paper has more of those types. On the 20th, obviously, you're going to have more committed guys in that, but you're also going to have, there's some names in there, Kendall Gerville, Sam Roseborough, Luke Wafel. Are you really in it with Caden Prothrow at that time? It's the 13th, though, on paper. It's definitely the 13th. There's more questions that have to be answered on the 13th.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. Want to thank Adam, along with our other sponsors today, Gooder, Pesty, Omaha Steaks, and, of course, Huel. And VFL, just to answer your question, red was is this weekend, was what that meant on the map there. So that's the different colors. Red this weekend, yellow the 13th, and blue was the 20th. So, but Bobby, what do you have later today?
We mentioned State of the Program coming up around noon today. We also have the live stream this evening, around 7 o'clock. We'll be watching a little softball during the middle of that. So we'll have that to score up on the screen as we discuss football recruiting, maybe even a little baseball, given that they have a visitor on campus this week. So we'll just see how that all goes, but should be fun talking a little Longhorn sports later today.
And be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. New special going on. New special, same promo code. OTFOG is that promo code, and you'll get a full year for $39.95, but only if you use promo code OTFOG when you sign up over at ontexasfootball.com. And it looks like we got a super chat that just came in, so we will answer that real quick from Seth. Thank you, Seth. Prediction for softball? I think it goes 3 games with Texas winning it.
I think 2 runs may win games.
I think 1 may win it.
I do too.
Yeah, you got to get on them and get on them early. That if Texas puts pressure on Texas Tech early as opposed to vice versa, then Tech may start pressing a little bit, Jerry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of my big things is who plays the best defense behind their great pitcher. I think is going to be massive, and who wins the national championship. Who commits the most unforced errors?
Well, I can tell you right now,
the pitcher.
Texas has a whale of a third baseman.
Yeah.
I mean, Mia Scott is a baller.
Yeah.
So.
And Jolie at first base.
Yeah.
And Bobby Petronic said this. This is what I'm talking about. There will be some nerves. I don't care if Texas was there last year or not. There's always nerves. Who's gonna protect their pitcher?
I'm going to say Texas in 2, gentlemen.
You got Texas in the sweep. I'll set Texas in 3.
I'll go Texas in 2 as well.
I like it. All right, y'all. Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live. And for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you in the morning.